All right. Thank you, tech team. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Diane Christensen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am your board moderator. So, Rick, where's Rick? There's Rick. And let's read a chalice lighting. We light our chalice this morning with our hearts turned to the work of our congregation. We have inherited this institution from decades of people who believed in the power of human beings. To bear love into the world, we carry this tradition for those who find comfort, inspiration, and joy, and within its real and virtual spaces. We tend to spark the imagination and hope for the world to come. Thank you. So I just want to, for those online, Michelle, are we going to do the chat or raise hand?
That's why I have the participants list up there.
Awesome.
So they can use raise hand.
Okay.
Let's make sure everybody knows how to do that.
Let's check that out.
So online, you're going to use the raise hand button if you have questions. So we are going to have presentation, then we're going to have a vote on a few things, and then and obviously we would have any questions before the vote, any discussion that needs to happen before the vote. So I want to you're as a participant in this UUCC congregational meeting, everyone pledges to extend trust, patience, and goodwill to one another. We choose to act and communicate respectfully. When differences arise, we will allow opportunities for all to be heard and understood. We will work together, appreciating conflict as an opportunity to grow. We understand that not all concerns can be resolved to our personal satisfaction. All right, and with that, we talked about the three cards already in here. We have determined that we have a quorum. And with that, I ask Kevin and to come forward, as well as Cheryl Copper.
I see. That's you, Sam.
I am Kevin Paris. I use he, him pronouns. And this is a proclamation from the Board of Stewards. That's okay? We're good? On behalf of the members of the Unitarian Universalist Community Church in Glen, the Board of Stewards wants to honor the work of the 2020 and 2023 history teams led by Cheryl Copper. The 39 people named here include mostly church members, but also some non-church members who offered useful advice during the process. The teams gathered and read historical documents, organized the data from our archives, reached out to the congregation for input, wrote essays, and designed the 30th anniversary history entitled Answering the Call of Love. Unitarian Universalist Community Church, our first 30 years, 1993 to 2023. This project took much time and attention and was truly a labor of love. We are most grateful for this history and the efforts to distribute copies of it to willing secular and non-secular archives and libraries interested in Unitarian Universalism here in Virginia. Our legacy will endure within our walls and in our greater community. May we continue the inspiration and the work of those who have brought us thus far. This resolution was read and approved by the Board of Stewards on May 20th, 2024. And here are the 39 people: Karen Bartek, Raymond Cady, Brenda Clarkson, Cheryl Copper, Mary Virginia Curry, Kristen Defer, Peter Defer, Sharon Defer, Deb Downing, John Everett, Colin Ferguson, Dorothy Fillmore, Susan Fox, Lisa Furr, Margot Garcia, Arlene Gilbert, who is Susan Leghart's mom, Janet Hammer, Scott Hammer, Montana Higgins, Renee Hill, Rebecca Keller, Dee Kaiser, Sarah Dumas Long, Christine Lucas, Mark Moline, Amy McKnight, Jane Mitchell, Tim Mitchell, Karen Montgomery, Cynthia Paris, Kevin Paris, Diane Pominski, John Skeideman, Seth Shelley, Gene Smith, Porter Smith Thayer, Pat Vaughn, Shelley Walker, and Catherine Wimmett. Ta-da! Did you want to say?
Can I give this to you to hold, Kathy? Can you do that? Thank you. I have a confession to make. I came to Unitarian Universalism as an unchurched person, and I've only been here 6 years, so when Peter DeFer suggested that I take on the history and round up a team, I thought he was cray-cray.
He was.
But as it turned out, my inexperience didn't matter because the history team was here. I mean, look at them. They were here at the beginning, charter members, and they're still here. So I just listened and took notes. There were meetings and trainings and making thousands of decisions, from the church box to buying the 6 acres. And this building, which some of you may not know, has a Unitarian, an award-winning Unitarian architect who was just recently recognized. And they did it all. These people right here. And I had no idea what it took to build a church from the ground up, from scratch. But they did it. They did all the hard work, the social justice, the outreach, the music. Peter said, when we had this building, all the parts were already in place because they met in churches, they met in schools and in homes, and they took the church books out of the trunk of the car, and that's what we were for about 9 years when we bought this land. So you would need an Excel spreadsheet. Mark Malin, you should be up here. For all the things these people are still doing. Kathy Wimmett carried us across. It took like 6 months for us to do a 71-page full-color history, as you can see here. 9 are still left if you want to buy one. I'm talking out of turn here. Diane and Mark, I heard, were a young family taking leadership roles when this church was starting. And we need more young people, young leaders today too. They're living proof that you can do that. You can raise a family and be working on a promotion at Randolph all together. Kathy Wimmett is well renowned for her work with refugees, but in the beginning she was heavily involved with UUA, getting training. She became a trainer and a mentor. John Skeideman, everywhere at once. You see him working on the land today. And you'll see pictures in the history of the media that we were getting back in that day. This was a big deal for a church to break off from First UU amicably and start a whole new church out in the countryside. Gene Smith talked about the importance of giving children a place, a church of their own. RE, huge part of what we did back then, and we're hoping to bring in more children. Gene Smith, board member, and I forget all the positions she's been on. Still heavily involved. Powerhouse, Peter DeFer. He is Shady Grove, but he's also in the choir. I feel like I'm standing with the choir up here, like everybody, every other person is in the choir. Tim Mitchell, the Energizer buddy, where is he? Building and grounds now. That is a huge task to take on. He was one of our charter members. Kevin Paris, still on the board, still involved. Cindy Paris needs new glasses for all the editing she did. She edited from day one when we didn't even really have a solid draft. She needs new special glasses for this, I'm sure. Karen Bartek had a stack of directories with photos in them taller than her. And she is getting our copy to the Library of Congress. It's already in the Virginia Museum of History, the Library of Virginia, and 2 Unitarian archives, one at Meadville in Chicago and one at Princeton. So please join me in thanking the entire team. I couldn't have done this without them. I was really just a pencil pusher. And you can download it for free off the website. You can buy it, the 9 copies left. Please read it. Like me, I think you'll appreciate UCC even more after you have read this history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Michelle is going to present the budget.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Ham. I use she, her pronouns, and I am chair of the Finance Committee. So, oops, something fell. So before we get started, I also want to take a chance to also thank the generosity and the hard work of everyone involved in the finances of the church. It's you guys all make my job very, very easy, and I can't thank you all enough. From stewardship to all the money comes in through the bake sale to the auction to the general generosity. Just thank you guys. It's such a warming feeling to be part of this community. So. And with that, we're not planning on handing out the budget because we handed it out at the informational meeting, and as well as it was emailed, it's part of the news many times. So, but just as a quick overview, just to make sure you guys know generally what you're voting on, if we could go to the next slide, you can see the general income levels that we are, keep on going to the next one. That was from the past meeting. Next slide, there we go. So you can see this is all income money. This is the increase in pledges that have come in over the years, as well as more money coming in from the CDs that we have because of the high interest rates that we can get. Also, the Sunday bake sale has had increases, which is amazing. Same with the auction. So in general, we've been very healthy in the increase in income that we've been able to predict, for next fiscal year. So, and then if we go to the next slide, we'll see the expenses. Again, as a more high-level view. There we go. You can see our number one increase of expenses is going to personnel. Not only are we now able to give salary at the 97% of the proposed median level by UUA, but also we have money to potentially hire a custodian to help take care of this building as it gets a little older. Anyway. So it's been a big goal on the Finance Committee to try to more accurately, to use our past spending to more accurately predict our spending for the future. That way we can really live into our values and make sure we can support and, support the things that are most important to us. That's been a big goal of our committee this year. And with that, I think it's time to vote. Oh, sorry, questions.
Or we can.
And again, if anybody really has questions, we do have 15 hard copies of the budget, or I'm happy to answer individual questions. I have my computer, I have a hard copy. Peter. Hi.
Thank you very much.
Only speak on a mic or they can't hear you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Yep. No questions. Nope. Nope. You want to come up here? Yeah. Go ahead.
It's not so much a question, but a comment. One of them is something you alluded to before. Oh, board. Okay. There are two items that I'm going to suggest to the board. One of them is what Michelle referred to, which is more closely tracking how well we are able to expend our money. So for at least the last 4 years and maybe 2 years before that, let's exclude the pandemic year because that's sort of an aberration for every regard. We have had a large carryover at the end of the year, which means that our spending planning needs to be adjusted so that we do a better job. And you made a reference to that. And I think that's something important that the board can carry on and take attention to. The second one is, this is the second time in a few years that the nominating committee has not been successful in finding candidates for all of the positions on the board. And I was able to serve on one of those boards that had 6 instead of 7 people, and it's an important deficit. It's really serious. So maybe one of the things that the board could do is hold an on-site, in-person leadership training so that people are not quite so nervous, scared about serving on the board or as a committee chair. So that's for, neither one of these two is on the board next year, so I don't know who I'm talking to. So this is for the continuing board. I see one of them over here and another one over there and a third one. So there, those 3 people. So take some of the discretionary funds that we've got and have an in-person leadership training from somebody like Tyler, who's one of our UUA reps in town. Thank you.
Yep, any other
budget
questions?
Anybody online? Okay.
Great.
All
Oh,
right.
yeah, is that a question or is that to vote?
Let's vote.
Okay.
Everybody, let's vote. Pick your card. All right, looks like a pass.
Okay, it's passed. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Finance Committee.
Raise their hand. Online, people online can raise their hands up, with a thumbs up up here. There's a thumbs up, so you can use a thumbs up. Possible. They may have stepped away. Yep.
Vicky raised her thumbs up. Scott and Winter raised their thumbs up.
If you can have them do a hand or raised hand, that stays up until we turn it off, and then the thumbs up that goes down.
Okay.
So if you can reiterate that.
Okay. Just a raised hand. If you can find the raised hand button, we'll do it. Okay. I think are we good? Good to go. All right, thank you. Next is the endowment. Susan Kennedy and endowment have a presentation.
Good morning. I became a new member last year, and I got into the warm embrace of this wonderful congregation. And when you're in the onboarding process, they say, well, what did you do at the last UU church you were at? And I said, well, I was chairman of the Endowment Foundation. And they immediately sent me over to Susan, Dina, and George and said, just share what your experience was and see if there's anything we can do better here. And I was asked, how did it go in my last UU church? And the answer is, it took 40 years, so it takes a long time for these things to grow, but it had reached the point where it contributed between 15 and 20% of the annual budget. So it was significant. It was a significant operation. So can I get the slides going? So they listened very patient to me. Thank you, Susan, George, and Dina, as I asked them, well, how does it work here? There has been an endowment, but it hasn't grown very much. It's been here for about 10 years. And I said, what's the process? And we dug down into the documents. Okay. So first, what is an endowment? Well, go back, please. So an endowment is a fund that is held separately from the church's other funds, and it's allowed to grow with interest and earnings and more donations. And then every year it throws income into the pot to help the church sustain itself. So it's a wonderful thing. Very appealing to certain donors because they get really excited about a forever donation. You put money in today and it will put money into this church forever, which is pretty exciting for people who like that. So it provides long-term support for UUCC, but it works best when it's easy to understand and it's easy to administer, so that the donors can understand how this works and the congregation can understand how there's a benefit to the congregation. Next slide. So we dug down into the current documents, and it's cumbersome, the way it's been set up. And it hasn't been real successful because I think it's hard for donors to understand, and it's extremely hard to administer. Next slide. So for money coming in under the current rules, 25 to 50% goes right back out to local charities, undetermined as to what those charities are, but to local charities. And it struck me that donors are really smart, and they're wonderful people, and boy, do we love them, and they're good at picking their own charities. They're good at saying, I like this one. That's where I'm going to put my money. And if they want to support UUCC, they don't want their money to come in and half of it to immediately go right back out. So I thought that was cumbersome for the donors. Didn't make sense. The money coming out of the current endowment is also very hard to track for everybody concerned. It's only allowed for certain categories, and there's no explanation of how you would ask for it, how you would get it, how it would be determined. It's hard to administer, And that's not what you want in a plain vanilla endowment. You want easy for the money to come in, easy for the money to go out. Next slide. So we took a hard look at the policy and the bylaws, and we're going to ask for votes today on both of those. And we said, how can we make this easy for the donors? Well, we're going to take out that 50% tax on top. We're going to say, you put your money in, it's to help UUCC. And how do we make the money come out in a way that everybody can understand? And the way most endowments work is once a year, they do a mathematical calculation. In this case, 4.5%, whatever's in the endowment, gets written in a check, and it gets handed to the Board of Trustees for them to apply to the annual budget. Okay? Easy to understand. Easy to go in, easy to come out. And the theory is that the endowment will continue to grow because the returns should exceed 4.5% plus additional donations should keep coming in. So this is going to be a growing endowment, and I will tell you, all of your universities and colleges that you attended all have endowments. They have perfected this. They have this down to a science, and that's the way they do it. And donors trust it, they're comfortable with it, and it's effective. Next slide. So I want to be clear, and I've said this every time I'm up at this microphone, all donations are good. All donations are good, Madam Stewardship Committee. They're all good. The endowment donations are good, of course. The annual giving donations are good. We need those. Every time there's a capital campaign, we need to donate to that. That's good. So the goal here, again, your universities have perfected this, is to have a menu of options. Lots of choices. You get excited about the annual campaign, you do that. And then there's a capital campaign, well, you do that too because you're a good, solid member. And then there's an endowment, and for the endowment people, it's sort of different. It's the legacy money. It's how do I leave a legacy? How do I express my values through my donation that's going to sustain this organization? And I love that presentation on the history. This is a sustaining organization. It wants to be there forever and ever. And this kind of money will help that happen. Okay, next one. So the task of the endowment committee is going to come down to just a couple things in the future. By the way, we can always use more endowment committee members. Manage the money with an eye towards safe growth. Endowments are typically managed, and there's a lot of guidelines that the committee will follow. Certain, this is not the wild investing stuff. This is very safe, steady growth is what we're looking for. We solicit endowment donations in cooperation with stewardship. This is not competition. This is cooperation. We want all the members to hear what the options are. There's a menu of options. And if one resonates with you, say, boy, this one really, that's exciting to me. I like a forever donation, or I like getting some extra money to the church to accomplish certain tasks right now. There's different, that's why when you go to your college, there's some places where there's people, some families have their names on all these buildings because that's their thing. And then you have other people who always donate to scholarship funds for first generation because that's their thing. You've got to find the thing that matches people's excitement. That's why you have a menu. And then the other thing that this committee will do under this new process is we're going to hand a check every year to UUCC to apply to its budget. And we're going to probably do it with permission of Reverend Sarah, right up here, so you can see it happen. You can see that people, some of whom have passed away, but they're still leaving a mark on this institution by creating revenue every year that will hopefully grow and grow and grow. Next slide. So what do we need from you today? We've formally proposed a bylaw change to take there were some mistakes, I think, in the way that bylaws were written originally, so we're going to clean that up. And then we're also going to ask you to approve the new endowment policy, which has been circulated. And the policy is, as I've summarized, easy in, easy out. Okay. So I think that's a single vote on both together, if that's permitted in this operation. Because I don't think you'd want the bylaw changes without the policy. I think they work together.
But I think it's cleaner if you do the bylaw change first and
Okay.
then do the other.
I follow the rules. Then I need 2 votes from you. The first one is bylaw approval, and the second one is the endowment policy approval. Bylaw approval?
Any questions?
Oh, any questions? Any questions? When's lunch? Is that a question?
Cool. I'm Robin Allman. If, in the unlikely event that the investments do not make 4.5% a year, what happens to the endowment? So, like, you're supposed to take 4.5% out. What if it only made 3% that year? What happens?
So you stick with 4.5%, and here's the reasoning. Over time, those of you who've invested over time, you will grow. There will be the ups and the downs. That's part of how this process works. I don't think it's, I think we'll be fine. If one year we take 4.5% of a slightly smaller amount, we'll be fine. And if the next year we take 4.5% of a bigger amount, we'll be fine. The way to do this is to keep it simple and easy to understand, because my experience is that will attract the donors. They'll get it, they'll understand it. You don't want to rest with the committee or with the Board of Stewards, for that matter, lots of discretion in how this is done, because this is a forever donation that's going to run forever, and you just stick with the program because it's going to take time, and that's how it grows.
So you mentioned, right here,
Yeah.
You mentioned a donation to the UUCC. How is that determined?
I'm sorry, what?
You mentioned a donation to the UUC, the use. I thought I heard denomination as well. Is that not correct? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, and so just to prepare everybody, stewardship and endowment are going to work together to provide information sessions on how the details of how this works. And I'll give you just a tiny little sneak preview. If you're thinking, I put in my will that the money will go to UUCC endowment, which you can do, that is actually not the most, it's not the easiest, and it doesn't cover the most money. Every one of your retirement accounts has a little card that you got, and somewhere along the way you filled that thing in, and we're going to try to persuade you to put UUCC endowment fund on that line.
Okay, I just wanted to add a couple of things, and I think he just did it, is that talking about stewardship campaign and endowment, most of the time the endowment donation is a bequest in will or something like that. And the other thing I wanted to point out in terms of investments, our next project is we're going to come up with an investment policy, and we will make that available for everybody to see in the church.
Any other questions? Anybody online? Here's one down here.
So how much money do we have in the endowment fund right now?
It's around a little over $50,000.
Thank you.
And just by way of comparison, the church I came from, same size, 1.4 million. And see, it wasn't all by one person. It was this, you know, it was all like that.
How long have we had the endowment? When was it started?
The bylaw was passed in 2014, and I don't know when the first funding occurred, but probably 2015 from what I can see in the document. So a little less than 10 years, but there have been some wonderful donations, but not a lot. Not what it should be. Not what it should be for this size group.
Have a vote? Somebody have a question?
Bylaws.
Bylaw vote first. That's a pass.
Okay, and then the endowment policy. Oh, we got to get the online, so sorry. Any other votes from the people online? Any other votes from the online folks? Silence is consent. We will say that.
All right, I'd go ahead.
Okay,
Let's go ahead and do the other.
let's do the policy, the endowment policy.
Tell them to vote online.
You can vote online on the endowment policy. All right, thanks everybody. We will be back later with some legacy discussion, but we'll do that another time. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Shelley up from nominating about to approve our new members of our committees and board.
Thank you, Diane. My name is Shelley Smith. I use she, her pronouns, and as Diane just said, I am chair of your nominating committee. I would like to start by recognizing the members of the nominating committee for their hard work and dedication to our beloved community. They are Mark Moline, Michelle Matthews, Susan Wood, and Eric Kraft. If you're all here, raise your hand or stand so everybody can thank you. Apparently also Cheryl Copper, although I did not know that until she made her pitch for more leadership involvement. Thank you for that. We love you. And I was not going to do this, but in face of Peter's comment, I just wanted to share just a brief couple thoughts that the nominating committee has had about the way we function. In general, the nominating committee has sort of started their work in January or February in pursuit of the slate for this year. And over the course of this year, in fact, last year as well, we started to talk about the fact that we really think that the work of the nominating committee is a year-round effort to engage people in the leadership opportunities that this church offers and that this church needs to have filled in order for the work of the church to go on. So we are already talking about some activity for the fall, including a leadership development seminar, which actually we offered in the spring, but nobody signed up, which is not with somebody from the church, but is based on Clifton Strengths as kind of a general self-development. But you'll also hear us doing some other things as we try to kind of do that. So thank you, Peter, for the mention, and we are aligned with you that that's what needs to happen. We'd like to recognize and thank the following members for their leadership service as their terms end. For the board, Diane Christensen. And on the nominating committee, Mark Moline. We would also especially like to thank Michelle Ham and Jeannie Klein for their incredible commitment and willingness to move into new leadership positions as their current leadership terms in other positions end. That's pretty remarkable dedication if you think about it. The slate of leadership candidates to be affirmed at this meeting are as follows. For treasurer, Michelle Ham. For nominating committee, Elena Brooks Perkins, who is not here. She's in Spain. The endowment committee, Bob Busing. Bob, thank you for that presentation. And for the board of stewards, finance chair, Jeannie Klein. And also, we did have a member at large position, as Peter mentioned, that we were unable to fill. We did contact upwards of 6, 7, 8 people to talk about that role. No one that we were able to identify was interested in serving. If there is any member, and you do have to be a member to serve on the board of stewards, who is interested in serving in this role, you're encouraged to reach out to me, any other member of the nominating committee, and I'm sure anybody on the board would also be willing to talk to you about that. Thank you. Are there any questions about the slate or the nominating committee process that anyone would like me to answer?
Shelley, do we need to reaffirm who are coming back?
I don't think so. The question was, do we need to reaffirm people who are serving current terms? And the answer is no. Oh, Leslie and Kevin. That's a good process question. I think we do. I guess we should. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. That was your question, and I guess I didn't understand it when you asked me earlier. Yes, so both Kevin and Leslie have agreed to serve additional time in their current roles, so I'm doing what Diane also did. So we should affirm them in addition to the new folks that are stepping up into leadership roles. Any other questions for the nominating committee?
Have a vote.
We will entertain a vote. Folks online, you should vote using the thumbs up or thumbs down button. Thank you all.
All right. Reverend Sarah wanted to say something.
I once again want to recognize Diane. You can stay seated. But Diane has been outstanding as our moderator for the last 3 years and served on the board for 1 year before that. This has been an absolutely tumultuous time on the board with a whole lot of transition and a lot of work going into it. And I just want to make sure that we honor her for this work and be so grateful that she is now able to have a break and not have this on her plate anymore. But she has done so much for us in these last 4 years. I want to make sure she gets a big, big round of applause.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I would be remiss, though, if I did not say that Sarah Long called me and asked me and talked to me and convinced me to take the position on the board. So I just want to recognize Sarah Long for her. Whoever decided Sarah was the one that would contact me was correct in having her contact me. It's like, I don't know, Sarah, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so a few years later, here I am. So thank you to Sarah. Rick Lux is going to talk about the capital campaign. We actually have a committee.
Greetings. This is the first of 700 slides. I want to go over this in great detail, so we don't have to do it once. Could I have this first slide? I don't know whether any of y'all have been involved in a capital campaign. It's been something that Jane and I have experienced every freaking time we've arrived at a church. And I'll just walk through the process here. The first thing is we got to decide what we want to do. We have over 100 people in this thing, 100 different ideas, 180 ideas. But there's no, oh my God, we got to do this. And the reason we want to have a capital campaign is to further our mission. How do we reach out to people better? What can we do with our money to make this a better place? And that's why we have to go through, well, for Unitarians, it's kind of a short process, take about a year, of talking among ourselves and figuring out what it is we want to do. What we want to do could be anything from paying off the mortgage, putting on a new roof, putting solar instead of regular shingles, building a whole new church. Just the list is enormous. Paving the parking lot, unpaving the parking lot. We just have to decide, and that's going to be the first part of it. Now you'll notice on the chart there's a gang up there called program management. They're the people, they're going to get the brass tag. It says they killed themselves to get this done. They will watch over this process. It's a 3-step process. Figure out what we want to do, figure out how to get the money, and then the execution of the project. Having been through this a number of times, you end up giving a lot of money, but it doesn't seem like you are, because you give a chunk of money over a 5-year period. So when you give your $10,000, you're not giving $10,000 at once. You're breaking it up into little pieces over time. UUA has a bunch of arm twisters. They call them financial somethings or others. But they'll come down and they will gently twist your arm and explain to you how you can spend more than you think you can. So we get a lot of support from UUA on that. The third team there, the execution team, then their job will vary depending on what we do. If we do something that doesn't require construction, there's a whole bunch of people we won't have to be involved. If we just decide to do some kind of construction, Well, then we have to deal with Hanover County. And so we need somebody who can talk like an architect, talk like a civil engineer, talk like a Hanover County guy. And be able to look at blueprints and say, oh, that door's on backwards, or you can't get from here to there. There's just depending on what the choice is, it will depend on how the third team shakes out. I have talked to a bunch of people about serving as program managers, and I don't want to talk about it right now because I haven't got commitments from a few people that I've been running from me, I guess, or enjoying nice vacations. They, in turn, will talk to people depending on how they shake out their responsibilities to develop the first team, the second team, and the third team. Again, it's a long process. We'll spend about a year chatting among ourselves. I hope to have a lot of information up so there's no surprises. Then the fundraising takes about a year as we work through the whole congregation. And then finally, when it comes to building or whatever we're going to do. Now, again, if it's something simple, might be over it in a week or not. But that's the plan. We just need to figure out what we want to do and remember that everything we do is to further our mission and let people know that we're here and perhaps lift their spirits a little higher than they were. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. So one of the last things, but not least, is the ministerial update. Folks have been approaching me and other board members a fair amount of times to find out what we're going to do. The board has decided to initiate the contract to call process for Reverend Sarah. So as you may know, the UUA always has their processes. So that it will take, the board, and it's the board has to appoint a special call process task force. Say that fast a few times. Who will lead the congregation through the UUA process. It will consist of 5 to 7 members. So the board will be reaching out probably over the summer to folks to try to get that going. It will take, we're really looking for a decision next spring. It'll take the year. They'll do some what we call cottage meetings. We'll do or small meetings for people who don't know about cottage meetings. And really the committee will, the task force will design the process and the timeline. And they should be, as we do the informational meetings, I'm sure we'll provide information as they go along. So at the end of the process, there will be a congregational meeting to vote, or depending upon what they recommend to have a vote. So that's kind of the process, what we're looking at. So we're looking at, basically using that second year of Reverend Sarah's contract to talk to folks and come up with a decision. So that's that. Thank you so much, everybody. Is there anything else? Any other business we didn't bring up? All right. Thank you, everybody online. We appreciate it. And the meeting is adjourned. Oh yeah, we got to collect these. Please everybody turn in your cards.